Hello everyone, welcome back to Eat, Sleep, Breathe. So today I'm going to be covering another topic that again I get asked very frequently, believe it or not, on a weekly basis between YouTube comments, between Instagram, DMs, so on. I get asked at least on a weekly basis about 20 times this question. And it's very straightforward. And a lot of people are always wondering about my background, GSP, also known as green star polyp. How I've been able to do that, how I kind of prevent it from taking over a tank, because I think a lot of people out there are, under the wrong impression that if you add any GSP to any part of your tank, it's pretty much game over. And sometimes that can be true. It's mainly true when you talk really when adding it to any rock, because GSP is a very difficult coral to remove. Once you put it on a rock and it gets planted, it's almost impossible to remove. You really need to scrape it, and even then there's going to be some left in the crevices. That being said, it just makes it a very sometimes undesirable coral unless you can put it on an island, keep it isolated, which I think is kind of the best thing for GSP. GSP can also be used as a filler. So once you're done putting on your corals, once they're kind of growing in, you can add it just to add some splashes of color and have the other corals kind of stop it from growing. I actually do that with some of my corals. But so pretty much today I'm going to be covering how you can go ahead and achieve what I've been able to achieve here for going on 2 years, and what I believe is a beautiful background. I think it's a lot nicer than looking at a solid black background. So just my thought. So hopefully I answer some of your questions. So let's get right into it. So I want to cover one of the first things here is care for GSP. As far as the care level is concerned, it's a really simple coral to have. It doesn't have high demand lighting, doesn't have high demand flow. It doesn't have high demand as far as you having to feed it. Now, given if you have better lighting, if you have better flow, if you happen to feed it, of course you're going to get better results. But in general, GSP is a coral you can kind of just throw in your tank and it's going to do very well. Typically, if you can't grow GSP in your tank, you probably have some other issues that you should be addressing, because GSP is a very easy coral to grow. And yeah, it's typically, if you want to add coral to the tank, you can almost guarantee you're going to be able to grow and propagate and have tons of GSP in the long run. So that being said, when it comes to flow, I notice you get the better growth with higher flow. That doesn't mean in lower flow areas it's not going to grow. It just grows slower is what I've noticed. As far as lighting, you can see here in my tank, there's pieces all the way on the top that are probably north of the 200 par that are doing very well. And parts on the bottom, which some of them are mostly shaded, are also growing. So it's pretty interesting to see how it really doesn't care of lighting. So don't be worried about giving it too much light. At the end of the day, you're putting it in a place where it's going to be able to grow towards what it likes. So guess what? If it likes the light, it's probably going to grow towards it. Next thing I want to cover is feeding. As far as my personal GSP I have here, I really probably about once every other week I'll spot feed it polyp reefroids. That being said, it's a coral that's going to grab a lot of stuff from the water column, so you don't need to feed it. But of course, if you want it to be growing a little bit quicker, feeding it is obviously not going to hurt. And like I said, reefroids is what I use. It works great, and as you guys can see, it really gets great color. And since we're on the topic of color, when you're choosing your GSP, if you have a chance, don't jump the gun on any GSP you see, because I have noticed there's different strands of it. The one I have here is ultra green. I've never ever seen anything as green as this. And believe it or not, I got this from my neighbor. He was throwing it away in the trash. He didn't want it. So started off with a few frags, and what do you know it? Now it's pretty much on the whole back of my tank. So an important thing, if you are going to do a background like I did, when you are doing this, naturally you're going to want to plant the coral high, right, where you can see it. But I'm here to tell you, do not do that. It's not going to be bad, but I'm going to get into it here shortly what I mean by don't put it high. So generally speaking, if you have your scape and you know where you want it, put it quite a bit lower than where you want it. The reason I say that, because GSP grows towards the light. It loves growing towards the light. So if you start off high, it's going to have a harder time growing down because, again, it likes growing towards light, versus if you started off lower, it's going to quickly grow up higher, again, trying to reach for the light. So that's something I learned. I didn't know that at the beginning, but if I would have known it, I probably would have gotten a little bit better coverage and would have gotten it a lot sooner. Generally speaking, here in my tank, I would say this is about a 1.5 foot wide by about maybe 8 inches tall, 6 to 8 inches tall mat of GSP. So this thing's gotten here in about 2 years. And I started with a decent size frag. It was at least the size of my whole hand. Probably the size of, let's say, an iPhone 6 for you guys that maybe have an iPhone and want a better size comparison. So it was pretty big, and it grew very quickly, as you guys can see, and really took over. Another very important thing that I always hear people complain about is with GSP is that it's going to grow everywhere. And I can argue that. No, it's not. It's going to grow where you allow it to grow. Obviously, if you put it on a rock, you're going to lose control. But on the back wall, it's going to grow wherever you allow it to grow. So it's very important you don't let any rocks touch the GSP. Because if you do, you're going to regret it. So be sure you leave a little bit of a gap. It doesn't need too much. About 1/4 of an inch is all it needs. And it'll never, the polyps themselves may touch the rock, but as long as the base or none of that touches it, you're going to be perfectly fine. So be very careful that there's no rock touching it, because the last thing you want to do is get it on a rock, because at that point, that's going to be when you lose control of that coral. So another thing people tell me is, wait, isn't it like impossible to take off? And I don't know for you guys that have ever tried this with GSP, but typically your backdrops on our saltwater aquariums are either acrylic for your all-in-ones, or for you guys that have overflows. Obviously, just the center part will be acrylic or glass, but typically we're either going to be dealing with acrylic or glass. That's it. So it's going to be some sort of plastic or it's going to be glass. And guys, I would love to show you this, but I have nowhere to put it. But if I could show you guys how easy I could frag off as big or as small of a piece as I want of this GSP, it's literally getting a razor, drawing whatever size frag I want, and peeling it. Like, I barely even need to tug on it. So much so that you can even see here on the top, it is, I've been tinkering with this section here. You can see it's already peeling. And if you look very closely, it's actually peeling off very clean. So guys, don't be worried about it taking over. No joking around. If I wanted to remove this whole mat from the back of my tank, I could do it within about 30 seconds. I'm not even joking. It's that easy to remove. So don't be afraid of putting it and saying, wow, I'm never going to be able to remove it. Because no, guys, you are going to be able to remove it. But again, keep in mind, don't let it touch your rock. Do not. The sand, you don't got to worry about it too much. But yeah, don't let it touch that. Another thing, if you are going to do it on a backdrop like I did here, or background like I did, make sure your overflows stay clean, because it will want to grow on it. But again, every few months what I do, get a little razor blade, peel it off, and we're done. So it's very simple to maintain if done right. And I believe it adds another dimension to your tank. When you're sitting back, looking at your tank, watching it sway right to left. It's, typically there's no other coral you'd be able to put there. So technically it would become dead space. So it's a great idea if you guys are thinking about it to put some GSP there, because it really brings your tank to life. So guys, I think we're going to wrap this video up here. Kind of hopefully cover a topic that I get asked quite a bit. But I believe I covered everything in today's video, guys. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down in the comment box below. I thank you guys very much. We recently surpassed 4,000 subscribers here on YouTube, so you guys don't know how grateful I am. We're about to hit the 14,000 followers on Instagram, so I'm very excited for that as well. Be sure to follow me on Instagram if you guys aren't already doing so. Also, guys, Let me know down below what you thought about this video. If you guys have tried it, let me know how your experience went. If you guys are planning on trying it, you maybe have any questions about it, be sure to post them down there. I'd also love to hear from you guys any new topics or anything in particular you'd like me to cover in future videos. And we're going to end it right here, guys. As always, thanks for watching. Happy reefing.